Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Wealth After Work, the show dedicated to bringing you to and through your retirement. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and joining me in the studio is Josiah Grosso. He is the Vice President and Senior Investment Advisor at ASC Financial Group. We're so glad you're joining us today. We are going to be sharing with you some costly mistakes that folks are often unknowingly making when it comes to their retirement accounts, because we want to help you avoid making those mistakes. So we're so glad you're joining us. Josiah, my friend, always good to be here with you. How are you this week?
Hey, I'm doing great, Kristen. I am so excited about this show, though, because I love these episodes of where we can give actual great advice that people could take with them by just listening to the show, and they could really implement right away from there. So it's exciting.
Absolutely. I know. We've got a lot. It's a jam-packed show, so buckle up and get ready. But as we said at the top of the show, we want to help avoid these mistakes in your own financial plan. You know, most folks, as they're preparing for retirement, have the bulk of their wealth saved up in retirement accounts. Maybe that's IRAs or 401ks or whatever type of workplace retirement plan you may have. There's a lot of ways that those can go wrong quickly. So we've got some common mistakes here. We're going to be diving through what those mistakes are so we can help you avoid making them. So you ready to kick this off?
Let's go.
All right, let's go. So mistake number one, not understanding all the new rules under the Secure Act 2.0, which went into effect at the end of 2022. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so let's talk about some of these rules here. Originally, the required minimum distribution age, we'll say RMD from here on out, so I don't have to keep spitting that word out.
Yes.
But the original age was 70 and a half. Then they moved it on Secure Act 1.0 to 72.
Yep.
It is now 73 if you were born from the 1950s to 1959. And now from 1960 and after, it is 75 years old. So that's the first thing that we're going to talk about, is that RMD age has changed a little bit, and they may tweak it some more before this is all finished.
I'm sure.
Let's talk about the second thing that is really the biggest impact I think the Secure Act has brought us here, which is the elimination of the stretch provision, okay? And this is really what affects children as beneficiaries. And the reason for that is it affects those who were born or who are less than 10 years younger, 10 years younger than that decedent. Prior to that, it was a great way we could stretch out that tax burden over our life expectancy. Now, if you're more than 10 years younger, you have to take all that money out within a 10-year time period.
Yes, and within the first 10 years, right?
The first 10 years, yes, after the date of death. Now, if you are not 10 years, or if you're 10 years younger or less that you have from there, then the nice news is this is for like if your siblings are the beneficiaries, you still can stretch that out, okay? But really for children who are beneficiaries, you can't. The other thing I do want to mention is whether you're doing the 10-year payout rule or you are able to stretch it out over your life expectancy, you are still required to take out a distribution. And this is something that has been missed time and time again. And we're going to talk in a moment about some penalties, and I don't want to see that be in effect.
Right. Yep, for sure. So it's so important to understand that this has changed, and it stresses the importance of families needing to be aware, especially if you're the child who might be inheriting that wealth, or is the loved one who's passing on that wealth. It needs to be planned for accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to take it into consideration.
Absolutely. All right. Well, next up, mistake number two. This is a big one. You alluded to this with the penalty. Missing a required minimum distribution. This can be so costly for folks, and really it's something that can be avoided with the proper planning.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you talk about RMDs here, this is a critical mistake that we see, people just not properly planning for that. And one of the reasons is we're being forced to take this money out. So that means a couple of things. Even if I don't want it, I have to start taking it out, which means I could be put in a higher tax bracket, number one. Number two, my Social Security benefit could now be taxed because the result of being in a higher tax bracket. And number three, what I have to pay in Medicare premiums can be increased as well. So this is something that is extremely important that we talk about to understand some of those plannings. So let's talk about that too and some of the rules associated with RMDs.
Okay.
So we did talk originally was 70 and a half.
Yep.
It is now 73 or 75, depending on your year of birth. And the rule is you've got to take out that distribution by December 31st each and every year.
Yes.
Unless it's your first year. Again, a lot of rules by the IRS. I don't know why they make them all. But in your first year, you could actually wait until April 1st the following year.
Yes.
However, you have to take out a second distribution by December 31st in that same year.
To count for that particular year.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Now, can be helpful. Let's say I'm planning on working, I'm in a high income job, and I don't retire until November or December of that first year. I have to take that RMD.
Right.
It may make sense to wait into the following year where I don't have that employer income anymore to structure it. But it's something we have to make sure we're looking out for.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So can work if it's done properly.
Yep.
Now, what happens if we missed an RMD? Well, the penalty right now is 25% that we get penalized by the IRS of the missed portion, and we still have to already take out that money and pay tax on it.
Yes.
Now, here's the good news, Kristen. That penalty used to be 50%.
Oh, I know. 50%. How nice of them to lower it
right?
to only 25%. But that's still a huge chunk, and we don't want anyone having to pay that penalty because it's not necessary.
Absolutely, absolutely. But so we want to always avoid that penalty if we can help it. But let's talk about one more thing about RMDs before we move on that gets very confused with the people that I sit down with.
Okay.
So we talked about things like IRAs and then work-sponsored plans. These are like the 401ks, 403bs, TSPs.
Yep.
So with your IRA, each IRA is going to have a required minimum distribution amount. But with an IRA, you could take all of those RMDs just from one.
It's called aggregating, right?
Aggregating it
Yes.
all together. Or let's just say something happened where I had a major catastrophe. I had a tree fall on my house and I knew I needed to take money out, and I take it out of my IRA and it's $50,000. On all of my RMDs, I only needed to take out $35,000. I can take that $50,000 all out of one, not take the RMDs out of the other. But if I still have a 401k or 403b, that aggregation does not count for that employer plan. So I still would also, in addition, have to take out that RMD, even if I sufficed it from an IRA RMD.
And that's an important distinction because a lot of folks aren't aware of that. And if you take the wrong amount, or you take the right amount, but you take it from the wrong account, or you don't take it from all these different 401k accounts you may have, for example, then wham, you're also going to hit with that 25% penalty.
Absolutely correct.
Yep. All right. Well, mistake number 3, not exploring Roth conversions.
Yeah, great question that we have here. And this is probably one of the bigger mistakes that I see, because I like to kind of talk about that analogy of, would I rather pay tax on the seed or on the harvest? Okay.
Yep.
You know, IRAs or 401ks are great for deferring out the taxes, lowering my taxable liability. But all the interest, all the gains, all the growth I have in that account, I've got to pay tax on. So does it make sense to start maybe rolling out a portion, start paying tax on that seed? And as long as if you follow the rules correctly on there, we will be good that we can really take a look at not having to pay tax on that full amount in that harvest. And one of the things we talk about here is really to understand the difference of how important a Roth conversion is we've created a powerful tool with ASC. And that website we encourage everybody to go to is asctaxtest.com. And what that tool is going to be is it's going to show if you consolidate all of those tax deferred accounts together and what that taxable liability over your lifetime is going to be compared if you roll that over and you look at it as a Roth. So that's an important tool that I'm going to encourage everybody at home either to scan that QR code or go to that website to really see that report. It is impactful. But here's the thing, Kristen, you know, if your advisor has never talked to you about RMD planning, about how that's going to be affecting potentially your retirement, how that may tax your Social Security or increase your Medicare premiums. If you're not too sure how that planning is going to be, I'm going to encourage you to pick up the phone, give us a call at 844-918-4867. You'll speak with a member of the team of ASC Financial Group. We'll bring you through this retirement income analysis, which we will talk about how we can structure those RMDs properly to make sure we don't have a penalty, we don't have a missing one. And it's going to be really important for those at home to take a look at this strategy.
For sure. Josiah, thank you so much. So much goes into this, and there's such a value in having a written plan where you know how all these things need to work for you. So again, the invitation is for you to call the number you see on the bottom of your screen and schedule your time to come in and receive your very own complimentary retirement income analysis. And as part of that, you're going to be able to discuss in depth everything regarding your situation that we've already covered on today's show. 844-918-4867 is the number to call, or you're welcome to scan that QR code and that will get you connected as well. We'll be back with more costly mistakes and how you can avoid making them right after this.
Our money goes through 3 phases throughout our lives. We accumulate it, we protect it, and then we distribute it.
Most people entering retirement, they're taking way too much risk.
We take a look at where they currently are. The positions and the accounts that they have, is that enough? Is it generating enough income for them in order to achieve those goals and aspirations?
A successful retirement basically says, I am giving permission to spend money.
It's being able to do everything you have in retirement without worrying of, do I have enough money?
You know, it's us focusing on what are the things in retirement that we want to do, that we dream of doing, that we never got to do while we were working.
Being able to spend more time with their grandchildren, be able to travel.
At the end of the day, we don't want a one-size-fits-all for retirement. We dive into, an individual's needs. It's really a forensic approach to income planning.
Welcome back to Wealth After Work. I'm Kristen Oakley here with Josiah Grosso. We're so glad you're joining us today. Josiah and I are discussing several costly mistakes that folks often unknowingly make when it comes to their retirement accounts, because we want to help you avoid making those same mistakes. So we've gone through 3 so far. Next up on our list, mistake number 4. This is a really interesting one. Having too many retirement accounts. Now notice what we're not saying is having too much retirement money. That's not the problem, right? But the problem is having too many retirement accounts. Talk about that.
Yeah, so let's talk about a little bit of the change in landscape. We used to work for one company for 30, 40 years, and they provided a pension, a plan that was able to take care of our retirement. That doesn't happen that much anymore. Now we've gone to these defined contribution plans, 401ks, 403bs. And then what happens is we may work with one company for 5 years, we get a promotion for somebody else or a higher paying job, or we're able to move closer to family. And so we switch jobs, and we switch jobs. And now we have a bunch of these old 401ks sitting out there. And here's the thing, the more we have these accounts, it really can kind of muddy the water, and it can make a retirement mess needlessly that we have. And so what I find is most people, Kristen, they want to simplify their retirement life.
Sure. Yep.
They want to focus more on traveling, spending time with the grandkids, doing their hobbies. They don't want to take a look at all of these accounts, because remember, the more accounts we have, the more we have to account for these required minimum distributions.
Yes.
In fact, let me tell you about a couple of my clients here.
Okay.
Ray and Becky. They're from Blairstown, New Jersey. They worked at Blair Academy.
Okay.
Now, Ray was this person who, every time he saw a different investment, he opened up a new retirement account, a new IRA, because he wanted to diversify out his accounts. And when I sat down with Ray and Becky, no joke, he had over 15 different retirement accounts.
Wow.
Okay, and he was telling me, he was complaining to me about how stressed it was every single month taking a look at these statements and pulling them all together and keeping track with them. And what was great is I was able to sit down with Ray, I was able to show him how we could consolidate these together. He had no idea that he could group all these plans together. And we went from 15 different retirement accounts down to 3.
Wow.
He was the happiest person in the world from there.
Yes.
And so part of our analysis that we do is we will take a look at, we're going to inventory each and every account and see if we can simplify them.
Yes. Well, and this leads us perfectly to the next mistake we want to talk about, which is not rolling your old 401ks, 403bs, TSP plans, whatever type of workplace retirement plans you may have, into a personal IRA. Talk about why that can be a costly mistake.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. You know, we don't roll it over, so we leave it in that plan,
Right.
okay?
Yep.
We leave it as a 401k or a 403b. So the first step that we have is we may have some limited investment options, okay? Now, traditionally, these 401ks, these are growth-oriented vehicles designed to attract and retain younger workers. But as we get older, our risk tolerance changes.
Yes.
We tend to get a little bit more conservative. And if these plans are just staying there, they're not generally managed, that they may not match up with the risk tolerance that we may now have at this stage of our life. The other concern we have is the flexibility part of it. I have had some 401k companies, when we've called them and they're no longer working,
Right.
they say, if you want to take a distribution, you got to take all the money out. Okay, you can leave it, but you then have to take all the money out. And then even some of the plans that do allow you to take your money out, they say, well, we are mandatory holding 20% for taxes here. So even if you're in a lower tax bracket, they require you to withhold 20% for federal taxes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Some other problems we have about leaving it there. So with a 401k, not every 401k company will allow you to do that Roth conversion. We just talked about the importance of us being able to do that here. And then finally that we take a look at here altogether is we really take a look at not having the problems associated with the maybe the fees that we're paying.
I was going to say, if you have those old accounts, you have limited investment choices, right? So you have less control over your hard-earned money, but you could be paying a lot more in fees than is necessary.
Yeah, and again, if these accounts aren't being managed, we may have a lower fee while you're working, but you're no longer employed by that company. We've seen those 401ks really be able to kind of jack up those fees there.
Right.
And so that's why it's really important that we take a look at, should we leave it there? Can we roll it over to a self-directed IRA where you're in charge with more of the investment options? Can we lower some of the fees? Can we maybe do those Roth conversions out there? And so folks, if you're sitting at home today and you're not too sure what the right plan is, you know you've got some of these older 401ks out there. You don't want to withhold 20% mandatory for taxes or have to cash it all out. And we want to know some other plans that are available out there. I'm going to encourage you, pick up that phone, give us a call, speak to a member of ASC Financial Group. We're going to sit down with you. We're going to show you some quick, easy strategies that we can simplify and create a solid retirement plan for you.
Wonderful. Josiah, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, again, that number to call to schedule your time to come in and receive your complimentary retirement income analysis is there for you on the bottom of your screen, 844-918-4867. Or if you'd rather connect online, simply scan that QR code and that will get you connected as well. We'll be back with more mistakes and how you can avoid making them right after this.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter. the one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back to Wealth After Work. I'm Kristen Oakley here with Josiah Grosso, where today we are discussing the costly mistakes that folks often unknowingly make when it comes to their retirement accounts, because we want to make sure that you avoid making those same mistakes. We've gone through 5 already. This next one, Josiah, really ties into what we were just talking about. We were stressing the importance of consolidating old workplace retirement plans into a personal IRA. There's several reasons why you want to consider doing that. But one of the problems and the costly mistakes folks make when they try to do this on their own is they do a rollover that can result in immediate taxation. Talk about how that even happens and then how folks can avoid making that costly mistake.
Yeah, great question, Kristen. And I can't tell you how many times sitting down with somebody, they brought this question up that we've got. And so let's talk about the 2 different types of rollovers. The first one is called a direct rollover. This is where it's going from company to company, or in the financial world, it's called custodian to custodian. It's a direct transfer here. As long as you do that direct transfer, it stays tax deferred, meaning you don't have to pay lump sum taxation on that money. It also will allow you to do unlimited amount of those transfers, no matter how many you want to do during that year.
Okay.
And even if you're moving from a 401k where they'll tell you, I have to send a check to your home, if they even have to send a check to your home, it still qualifies as this direct rollover, because it's typically going to be made out to the new company,
right?
And it will say for benefit of
such and
such's name from there.
Yep.
So that even covers that direct rollover that we have. That tends to be the best way we want to see it.
The trustee to trustee transfer.
There you go. Trustee to trustee transfer is the best.
Yeah.
Now, the other way we do it is called an indirect rollover. And this is the area we see the most problems when it's a rollover. And this is when we decide we want that check mailed to ourselves in our name. Okay. Now, remember we talked about earlier on a 401k, there's a mandatory withholding of 20%. Okay, so I have $100,000, I roll it over, I'm only getting a check for $80,000. Okay, and then the IRS puts a rule on us. We only have 60 days to take that money from that 401k rollover or indirect rollover to me, and then be able to put it in another qualified plan or retirement plan.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
So off the first bat, as long as I can do that, safe.
Right.
Okay. However, remember they withheld 20%. So if I want it to be completely tax-free, I got to come up with that additional 20% to roll it over, and then I'll get that money back at tax time. If not, then that's considered a taxable distribution.
Yes. Yep.
But here's the biggest problem.
Okay.
The IRS tells you you can only do one indirect rollover every 365 days, not per calendar year, but one per 365 days.
Important detail.
Huge detail here, because I can't tell you how many times I've sat down with somebody. They said, well, my advisor said it was once a year, and they're thinking calendar year.
Yes.
And here's the problem. Let's say I make one 401k indirect rollover, and that one was the smaller one. And then I do another indirect rollover, and it's a larger one, and I'm thinking it can be tax deferred, but now it's a lump sum taxation. Okay?
Yep.
That is an important problem that we have, that we want to make sure we can avoid. And a lot of times we don't even know we're making that problem.
Yep.
We have that problem because of wrong advice.
Well, and I would add too, I think a lot of folks are concerned and scared to consolidate because they've heard these nightmare stories of creating a taxable event. But to your point, if it's done correctly, you avoid that altogether. But if you don't do it correctly, then all sorts of wrong can happen. happen, right? It just unleashes a monster you don't want to have to deal with.
Absolutely. And again, that fear of maybe I'm not doing something right. That's why it's so important to work with somebody who's knowledgeable,
Yes.
trusted, and understands the ins and outs of this, a retirement specialist.
For sure, which brings me to the last mistake we want to cover today, which is not getting a second opinion. And you know, we always say that you can't get a second opinion from the same person who gave you the first. I think it's so important, Josiah, for folks to understand why a second opinion is something that's in their best interest.
Yeah, so let's just talk about that second opinion for a moment. Let's kind of compare that analogy with like the medical field and a
Okay.
second opinion.
Yep.
Let's just say I'm going to see my primary physician to do a checkup. He listens to my heart and he goes, "Uh-oh, Josiah, there's something I don't like. You know, on your way out, I want you to schedule with the nurse for tomorrow morning, and I'm going to perform open heart surgery to you." I'm going to tell you what. My primary physician tells me that you better be sure I'm going to get a second opinion by somebody, okay? I want a specialist. I want a cardiologist to tell me,
Right.
you know what, he is right. We need to do that open heart surgery. Or I'd much rather him tell me, you know what, there's something wrong with his stethoscope.
Right.
Your heart is fine. We've done all the tests in here. But we want to get that second opinion. And see, in the medical field, that does happen a lot.
Oh, for sure.
If a doctor is not sure how to cure you or what the problem is, they're going to refer you to the specialist, okay? However, in the financial community, we don't do that. We sometimes guess. We sometimes say, I think this is the plan. This is the way we should do it. I don't want to refer
I really
out.
like that guy. I've been with
Yeah.
him forever. I think people are scared to maybe even break up with their current advisor sometimes, or they feel that's what they're doing by getting a second opinion, right?
Sometimes it's because they don't even want to hurt the person's feelings.
Yes.
They did such a good job. And I don't want to say he's doing problems, but he may have been good for you for a certain part, but now maybe things changed and we want to take things a little bit different here. And so that's why it's so important to really get a second opinion. And in some cases, maybe you're on the right road. Everything is fine. Nothing you need to do. But if it's not, I would want to know as early as possible.
Yes, for sure.
And so, folks, if you're at home, I know there's a number of things that we've talked about here. We talked about RMD planning. We talked about direct rollover, indirect rollover, how to avoid fees, how to lower some of our taxes maybe on some Roth conversions. If there's any topic that we have talked about, and it has been concerning to you, you've thought about these problems and it's kept you up at night, I'm going to encourage you to pick up the phone, give us a call. We're going to sit down with you. We're going to provide you that retirement income analysis, addressing all of these concerns, making sure we don't face those problems in our retirement years.
Josiah, thank you so much. We encourage you to reach out. 844-918-4867 is the number to call. Be safe, be happy, be blessed, and we look forward to being back with you next time here on Wealth After Work.